Hey, happy April 25th. I'm pretty sure it is. Hold on, I'm going to verify. My days, time is not linear, and the days seem like they're running into each other. So, yes, it is the 25th today. It is 10 o'clock in the morning, a little after 10 o'clock. And I have two things that I want to discuss today, at least for right now. This is a heavier message. It's a message where I'm going to show more of my vulnerability. Okay, because I've definitely shown my more dominant masculine side in a lot of the messages that I've been delivering. But this is a message where I want to purposefully tap into my the little girl that's in here. Okay. So the two messages that I'm going to be delivering today are the forgiveness that I have been taught about from those that probably hurt me the deepest. Okay. The second message is going to be about boundaries. So during the nighttime hours when everyone's sleeping, that's when God speaks the loudest. I've been setting my alarm every morning for 3:30. Even if I've only gone to bed at 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. Why? Because when I speak to you about numerology, God speaks to us through everything, through numbers. And, you know, during those nighttime hours, if you're waking up between 2 and 4, 2 and 5 o'clock in the morning, there's a reason for it. God is trying to deliver some kind of message. He wants to speak to you in the quiet of the evening. So I was listening to a teaching not too long ago, and it told me, it says, wake up at 3:33 in the morning, because that's when the veil is thinnest. You know, when we see numbers 11, 11, 111, when we see 222, 333, 444, you know, even throughout the day, you know, and there's different number sequences. There's going to be numbers that speak to you in different sequences that are not those. But if you see, you know, repeating numbers on a regular basis, pay attention. So what I do is I set my alarm for 3:30, and I have one of my favorite songs, Green Eyes from Coldplay. It wakes me up, and I love that song. I love it. And so at 3:33, what I do is I pray, and I express my gratitude for everything that I have. And then I set my intentions. Like, what do I want to do for the day? By the way, when you first fall asleep, there's a small window when your subconscious is most active. And that's why I started listening to affirmations as I fall asleep, to input the positive, you know, thoughts into my head, not just me, but like externally, like telling me like, I am this, I am that. And it's all very positive and very growth oriented. And then the second thing is, when we wake up first thing in the morning, we tend to grab our cell phones, and we need to stop doing that. We need to take a moment to breathe, feel the air going in and out of our lungs. Think about everything that we're thankful for. Think about our connection with the divine. Because for that, you know, I think 15, 30 minutes, I think Dr. Joe Dispenza was teaching on that, is when you're most sensitive to your subconscious, what you're feeding into your subconscious. So people that are not in a very good mind frame, when they wake up with all that anxiety, that's what they immediately go to, and they immediately try to distract themselves, or they immediately go on to their day, and they never take a moment to stop and think. And so what happens is they set themselves up for another day of frustration, you know, another day of, you know, focusing on all the problems throughout the day. So if you wake up with gratitude in your heart, it changes your day substantially. So with that being said, we're going to roll into my my feminine side. So if any of you have been following me for any length of time, I have definitely expressed some very strong feelings about different people in my life that have hurt me very deeply, you know, and even though they have not delivered the apologies that I know I deserve, it's not necessary, because I still have the responsibility to forgive within my heart. All of these individuals, almost all of them, have appeared in dreams of mine. I've witnessed different dreams, and it's been explained to me that my dreams, I'm a seer, SEER, which means I can see things before they happen. And so I've been getting dreams, and I've been learning to pay attention to them. I journal them when I wake up in the mornings now. And so there's been a couple of dreams that have come to me. And so what was behind the frustration, you know, that I expressed? When we dig down deeper, it's hurt. That little girl inside of me just wants to be, you know, taken care of. She wants to be held. She wants to be understood. She wants to be seen. And when the people that are closest to you, the ones that you most desire that attention, that affection, that, connection with, when they fail you, it hits on very, very deep levels. So, I said in one of my earlier videos that I did a couple months ago, I started talking about empathy and putting yourself in their shoes. And so what I've come to understand by understanding human behavior is that they are doing the best with what they have. And I used to struggle saying that, but I am settling more and more into that. And it's grounding my foundation for forgiveness now, because I know that people demonstrate and they act out of what they know because think about it. I know that those people in my life loved me dearly. They were in love with me to the best of their ability, to the depth of their understanding of what love is. And then when they get hurt, they react out of their triggers as well. So as I have learned to heal, and I have learned to stop responding to those triggers, and I've learned to see them for what they are, I myself have changed and grown in love. And I know how to, if you were to talk to my children and how I love them and how I see them and how I spend time with them. And, even though I haven't been able to be with them, I call them just about every day. If I don't talk to one, I might talk to two. There might be a day or two where I don't talk to any, but I always try to catch up with them and see where they're at with everything in their life, but that wasn't what was demonstrated to me, but I've had to learn these things. And so I have been able to find genuine forgiveness in my heart. When I think back to those moments, they don't no longer have the sting that they used to, but it's a process, it's a process. There's still been times where it's like, it hurts, but I've learned so much from those individuals, those people, about myself and about, what I need to change, because remember, I said this before, and I'm gonna say it over and over again. We attract what we are, and if those people were in my life and they did those things, what did I need to learn about myself? What did I need to learn to change and grow? And so that's gonna roll me into my my second topic. Because what happens is even though we forgive them, does that mean we need to let them back into our life or even within our vicinity? It also goes into, I was explaining yesterday in my video, that as we raise our frequency, we have to distance ourselves from the lower, frequencies. That doesn't mean that we don't interact with them at all, but we have to learn how to interact with them, if we interact with them at all. So as a person that's going into, for lack of better terms, or maybe it is a good term, ministry, I am, Jesus ate with sinners. We are going to be surrounded by people that are doing things contrary to what we currently do. And we have to learn how to set those boundaries. But I had a pimple, this is so freaking painful. It's right there. Oh, I pointed that out because I'm human, I'm not sitting here trying to, bring you listen, I know how to clean up well, but I don't want you paying attention to that right now. I want you paying attention to this. Boundaries, and so for the longest time, there's so many books on boundaries and how to do it. And, it's weird because unless you've been in an experience where you've learned how to draw a healthy boundary and you felt it, there's almost a sense of pride. It's hard in the beginning because people are stunned. You've always allowed people to step all over your boundaries and allow them to trigger you in those different ways. And so when you learn how to draw those boundaries, there's a sense of pride. There's I'm protecting myself, And so most of my immediate family I have no contact with. Why is that? Because as I was growing and learning, like I said, I didn't do it all right, but I learned in the process. I learned to draw these boundaries, and I would be like, for example, I have several alcoholics in my family, and I got to the place where it's like, hey, I would love to talk to you, but if you can't respect the boundary of not calling me when you're intoxicated, or, then I don't want to talk to you, and so I'm putting the ball in their court in the sense that I'm saying, I want a relationship with you, but here's the boundaries with which I will allow that relationship. you know? And if they say, well, I just don't want to talk to her because I always want to be drunk, that's definitely an option. That's okay. I have to accept that, you know, but they also have to accept the fact that I have my likes and dislikes as well. I have the freedom to choose what I want in my life and what I don't want in my life. And if they can't respect those, then we have to say, it's enough. I don't need you in my life. And that hurts because, you know, some of those people that we have to do that with are some of the closest people that are to us, the ones that we held at highest esteem, the ones that we chased after for attention and love and acceptance, you know, during usually our younger years. And, you know, that's been hard. But, you know, when we get around, we have to accept people where they're at. You know, like I can hang out with people that don't have their life together. They're some of the most beautiful people. Like all of us have deep, amazing truths and beauty in our lives, even though we're living in the midst of very dark times. You know, we always have something to smile about. So I woke up this morning at 3 o'clock. And I walked out on the balcony to smoke a cigarette, and I met a beautiful soul. He was out in the parking lot. He was crazy, and I'm going to tell you, he's ADHD, or so he says. You want to label it? We'll label it. Fine, whatever. He's all over the place, and so I got to talking to him, and so I kept trying to focus him in on try to focus him in on one thing. And the more I got to know him, the more I learned how his mind worked. Now, he was probably one of those children in school that was looked at differently and that probably didn't learn the same way that everybody did. And so everybody kind of cast him out. But the more I got to understand his brain, the more I'm like, you are brilliant. You see life in a way that most people would love to see it, but it's hard for him to share because he doesn't know how to articulate it very well. He also doesn't know how to organize his thoughts very well. But the more I was able to guide him into kind of explaining to me the depths of his mind and heart, like it was so cool. But you know, most of us don't take time to do that, you know, and that's where those distractions come in day to day. You know, we're so enthralled in our phones and being distracted by endless scrolling and videos that, you know, who's walking outside your door, like who. And it was cool. I spent 3.5 hours talking to this guy. By the way, talk about synchronicities or you know, things. He has the same birthday that I do next month. You know, I never meet people with my same birthday. So it was just, you know, it's just God puts these people in our lives to teach us different things, you know, and part of out of what the conversation that he and I had is what's, you know, is what is influencing this video. You know, it's just cool how God puts different people into your life. Nothing happens by accident, guys. Nothing is a coincidence. Everything in your life is put there because it is something you created or something that God is placing in your life to get your attention, to teach you lessons on. Okay. I hope that you guys could see my heart in this one. My heart is so full of love. I am no longer allowing those past hurts to control how I move forward. I have no hard feelings. I have no resentment. I have no bitterness. I have compassion. I have empathy. I have understanding. I have forgiveness. I do. And it's a great, great feeling. And that's what I want everybody to feel. I hope this video helps somebody. And who knows what I'm going to put out later on. But boundaries and forgiveness. Yeah. All right. I'll talk to you later. Mwah.